She was a supply tech. At best. That's what they said. 12 hours later, the night sky over Devil's Gorge lit up red. Tracers. SAM bursts. A downed comm line and a stranded recon team somewhere deep inside the no-fly zone. No pilot would go. None were cleared. No one qualified. Not officially. Then came the Raven. Barely intact. Screaming low through the canyon. Tail scorched, left stabilizer fluttering like torn cloth. It twisted between ridgelines with impossible control, threading through thermal shears that had snapped 2 jets the year before. The pilot was flying manually. No AI. No assist. It wasn't a combat ace. It wasn't anyone from the elite detachment. It was the mechanic they'd laughed at in the chow hall. The one who always had oil on her sleeves and a flight manual in her back pocket. The control tower watched the signal blip reappear. The aircraft was in hostile airspace performing maneuvers that weren't in the handbook. It dropped supply pods with surgical precision, then pulled into a turn too sharp to be anything but instinct. Back at base, they stopped mocking her. Sergeant Olivia Kane was part of the ground crew at Ellsworth Air Force Base, assigned to maintain the F-99 Raven, a next-gen hybrid aircraft, most considered too complex for field duty. Kane didn't speak much. Her uniform was always clean enough for regulation never polished. Her notebook, a soft-cover field manual, looked ready to fall apart. She had been a cadet once. Class of 2010. Top percentile in manual flight systems, terrain nav, and fallback hydraulics. Her instructors marked her as brilliant meticulous, but one note stood out. Lacks combat aggression. Highly reserved. That sentence sealed it. Pilot slot denied. Reassigned to maintenance. Kane never contested it. Never filed a rebuttal. She showed up at the hangars before first light and left last. When others were drinking coffee, she was rerouting circuits. When pilots cursed over weather glitches, she traced thermal patterns on printed maps and marked possible reroutes. She never spoke unless it mattered. Every day after final checks, she slipped into the base simulator room. Quiet. Empty. She logged hours. Thousands. Never broadcasted. Never asked permission. She flew every known training route, then built her own. Devil's Gorge became her obsession. It was unpredictable. Unguided. Required intuition. She didn't fly because she hoped someone was watching. She flew because no one was. By the time her name appeared on the AI pilot shortlist, she had more hours in simulation than most officers had in real air. When questioned, she didn't explain. She just flipped to the right page of her notebook and said she'd flown that mission 183 times under every variable. No one remembered her in meetings. No one included her in flight logs. But when they needed someone who knew the impossible route, by feel alone, she was the only name left. Not a hero, not even noticed. Just prepared. Colonel Winters called an emergency ops briefing at 0430. The map on the center screen showed red zones bleeding across Devil's Gorge. A recon team was pinned down, cut off from evac, no SATCOM, no GPS. The terrain fried electronics, scrambled radar. An analog delivery would be suicide. Only the F-99 Raven could cross. Hybrid engine, passive stealth skin, analog override. But no one qualified was on site. Not at that level. Not for this flight path. The room stayed silent. Then, the AI system linked to the mission profile pinged a match. Sergeant Olivia Kane. The table reacted like someone had cracked a bad joke. Lieutenant Davis, fresh academy graduate, scoffed. Said she was just a wrench-turner, never cleared for air, never flown combat. He laughed and reminded the room she wasn't even officer grade. No one disagreed, not at first. Winters didn't laugh. He tapped the screen. Flight hours. Sim record. Hundreds logged on that exact route. 0 system failures, 0 simulation crashes. The AI chose her because no one else came close. Davis stood again, protested, said simulator hours weren't the same as real flight. He was right, but he had never logged 1 hour over Devil's Gorge. She had logged 183. The room stayed quiet. The decision hovered. Winters didn't speak. He just gestured toward the data team. Pull everything on Kane, now. Records came up. 200 simulation hours, maintenance logs with 0 deviation for 5 years, highest possible rating on terrain analysis, ranked top in non-digital nav systems, specialized in fallback protocols, the kind no one taught anymore. A few officers shifted in their seats. She stood near the doorway. Didn't fidget, didn't look nervous, just waited. Winters finally turned to her, said nothing. She walked forward, set the notebook down on the table, opened it. Page 67. Hand-drawn contour of Devil's Gorge, wind vectors, heat currents, manual descent arcs, reverse entry pattern. She tapped it once. I've flown this 183 times. Weather variant signal loss, emergency descent, hydraulic-only recovery. I can do it again. Davis looked like he might argue, then stopped. Her tone wasn't pleading, it was flat, final. Winters looked around the room. No one spoke. They didn't agree, but they didn't stop it either. The order was signed. Temporary flight clearance. Single mission. A mechanic. Into the worst airspace in the hemisphere because no one else could. Or would. The hangar was empty. No one came to watch. Kane moved through pre-flight checks like she had 100 times before. Switches clicked in perfect order. She didn't look at the checklist. She didn't need to. Muscle memory and quiet discipline carried her forward. Hydraulics hissed. Engines warmed. The F-99 Raven vibrated under her boots. The aircraft looked ready, but she still walked the perimeter. Checked the gear by touch. Listened to each response. She climbed in, sealed the hatch, ran one last diagnostic eyes, steady hands, calm. No one saluted. No one spoke. She eased the throttle. The Raven lifted off smooth light into the morning dark. The tower watched her fade into the canyons. The screens showed her ID. Sergeant O. Kane, temporary, flight, operator. She was gone within minutes. No fanfare. Just silence. At 0512, her signal vanished. Command center screens went blank. A static blur replaced her ID marker. One tech said it was terrain masking. Davis said she'd crashed. The colonel said nothing. 6 minutes passed. No contact. Then something pinged. A blip. Unfamiliar ID. Moving too fast, too low, too clean to be random. The system flagged its maneuvers. Inverted arc, recoil drift, non-standard pathing. All precise. All manually input. It was her. The techs leaned in. One whispered she shouldn't be able to pull that turn with a damaged rudder. The AI flagged the move as impossible. She flew by instinct, by shape, by feel. No assist, no telemetry. The Raven streaked low over target zone. Supply hatches opened. 2 pods dropped. Both hit within 4 meters of extraction zone. Confirmed. Then the Raven flared again, slid sideways into a canyon turn no one trained for. The officer stopped breathing. Davis said nothing. Winters stared at the screen. Quiet. She wasn't surviving. She was flying, and doing it better than anyone else. The missile hit at 0531. It clipped the starboard wing. Shrapnel chewed the outer flap. The blast wave rattled. The Raven knocked it sideways and sent warning lights flaring red across the panel. Primary controls locked. HUD went dark. Autopilot failed. Every system screamed. Kane didn't speak. She reached below the console, pulled the manual override. The lever stuck. She yanked once, then again. It moved. Hydraulic lines hissed. Control sticks re-engaged. The Raven was flying blind. No screen, no nav, no feedback, just wind, pressure, angle, resistance. Her hands didn't shake. She tilted left, pushed nose down, leveled through touch. Below, jagged rock reached skyward. A wrong move would shear the wings off. She used terrain shadows, thermal drafts, recalled wind data from sim runs. Every contour matched the map in her head. She slowed, eased lower. Cargo bay doors unlocked. Wind pressure surged. She tapped the release. The payload dropped fast, clean, no flutter. On the ground, the recon team leader looked up. Watched the Raven pull a low curve. Overhead, Wingtips, sharp. Engines screaming. One of his men said something about an old maneuver. The L pattern reverse, a trick only instructors mentioned. No one ever saw it used. She didn't bank. She twisted, turned into the updraft, caught it, let the air throw her sideways, then snapped back level. It was flying, but it was also art, and no one had taught it to her. The Raven cleared the canyon wall. Smoke trailed behind it. Left wing was bleeding fuel. She climbed. The nearest ridgeline gave her lift. Enough to push forward, enough to try making it home. Every gauge was dead. She flew anyway, by silence, by touch, by memory. No one could help her now. But she didn't need help. She needed sky, and it gave her just enough. At 6:10, the tower picked up a flicker, faint, fading. A transponder burst. They checked coordinates, saw a path limping east. Altitude too low for safety, speed inconsistent, no comms, but it was headed home. The base prepped emergency med teams. Ran lights on runway 7. Wind gusted hard, dust kicked across tarmac. Everyone waited. Then they heard it, low, grating. A howling engine with broken rhythm. The Raven came in sharp. Right wing dipped, fuselage cracked, the gear held. She didn't circle. She didn't request vector. She aimed straight and put it down in one breath. Sparks flew when she braked. Tail scraped. Wing hit pavement and bounced. But the Raven stopped, right on the line. The hatch hissed open. Smoke poured out. She climbed down, covered in fluid, helmet off. No smile, no limp, just eyes forward. Someone started to clap, then stopped. Colonel Winters stepped forward, removed his cap, nodded once. She didn't respond, just walked past them, past the ruin of the plane, toward the hangar, toward her tools. Not a hero. Just done. She didn't show up to the ceremony. The base arranged one anyway. A medal waited on a velvet pad. Briefings mentioned her name. The recon team sent in a written statement. 12 lives. 0 casualties. Kane didn't attend. She was in Hangar 4 checking fluid pressure on a damaged Raven. Same uniform, same boots, a little more stained. Someone left the medal on her workbench. She moved it aside to make room for tools. Later, someone found a photo frame added to the simulator room. Her photo. Hair pulled back. Eyes steady. No smile. Beneath it, a single line in block text. The only one who dared to fly. No one admitted who placed it there. But no one took it down. A month passed. Cadets at the simulator program began hearing about a new maneuver added to the flight modules. L-pattern reverse descent. No digital assist. No HUD. It came with one footnote. Adapted from a combat deployment flown manually under degraded systems verified by command. Instructors didn't explain it. They just showed the footage. A grainy clip of the Raven swinging through Devil's Gorge. Some cadets tried it. Most failed. One asked where the maneuver came from. The instructor pointed at the photo in the simulator room. That's her. She built it alone. No mission log. No flight badge. Just memory. And silence. They called it the technician's maneuver. She never heard them say it. Didn't need to. Someone once asked why she never wanted recognition. Kane didn't answer. She just handed them her old notebook pages, worn edges burned, still smelling faintly of jet fuel. Inside the back cover, scribbled in ink, barely legible under grease smears, was a single sentence. No one is born chosen, but you can become the one no one can replace. That was all she ever needed to say. And from that day on, every pilot at Ellsworth walked past her photo before their first sim run, not to salute, not out of duty, but because they knew she earned it, quietly, completely, alone.